Hello, everyone. A man was going to buy some apples. He saw a vendor selling apples on the side of the road and stopped his car. The man was very hungry and thought he would get 2 apples for $2. He couldn't understand how it was supposed to bring him happiness, but maybe he just didn't know how to eat it. Maybe he needed to cook it or something. He told the vendor how happy he was that he had planted the apple orchard and how it would help him spread happiness to everyone in town. The vendor just smiled and said, "You're welcome, son. That person might be more than you think. And also, never waste your time being angry at others. They may be trying to teach you something important." Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Just remember, if you want to find happiness, you have to plant the seeds of happiness. The man smiled and knew that he would never forget the lesson he had learned from the old apple vendor. So he decided to go back to the vendor and give it another try. He explained to the vendor that the apple didn't taste good and asked if there was something special he needed to do to prepare it. The vendor just smiled and replied, "No, sir. You just need to plant it." The man said, "Plant it? How am I supposed to plant an apple?" The vendor said, "Well, sir, if you want to find happiness, you have to plant the seeds of happiness." The man still didn't understand, but decided to trust the vendor and do as he was told. He planted the apple seeds in his garden and waited. A few weeks went by, and the apple seeds sprouted and grew into a small apple tree. Every day the man would come out into his garden and water the young apple tree. He took great pride in his little tree and was excited to see it grow. One day the man noticed that one of his neighbors was looking at his apple tree. So he asked her, "Hey, what do you want?" She replied, "Oh, nothing. I was just wondering where you got such a nice apple tree. Mine has been dead for years." The man said, "Well, I got it from that apple vendor on the side of the road. He told me it was a special kind of apple tree that would bring me happiness." The neighbor said, "Oh, I know that apple vendor. That old man sells all sorts of things, but he's not always honest about what they are. Sometimes his things are dangerous, and sometimes they're just trash. But every now and then, he does sell something special. Where did he tell you to plant it?" The man said, "I planted it right here in my garden." The neighbor said, "Well, that's no good. You should have planted it in the wasteland over there. If you had planted it there, it would have grown into a huge apple orchard and you would have had enough apples to sell to everyone in town." The man was so excited when he heard this. He immediately ran to the wasteland and planted more apple seeds. In no time at all, he had planted an entire apple orchard. The man was so happy. Not only would he never be sad again, but he would have an endless supply of delicious apples to eat. And he could even share his apples with all of his friends and neighbors. He finally understood the true meaning of happiness. It wasn't about eating a magic apple. It was about sharing his blessings with others. But when he got closer, he realized that there were actually 2 separate piles of apples, one near the road and the other far away from the road. The one near the road was obviously fresh and juicy, while the one far away looked dry and shriveled up. So the man asked the vendor, "Hey, why do you have 2 different piles of apples?" The vendor replied, "Well, sir, these are 2 different kinds of apples. This is an ordinary apple, and this is a special kind of apple." The man said, "Oh, really? What's so special about it?" The vendor said, "If you buy one of these apples, it will bring you all the happiness in the world. It will make you feel great, and you will never be sad as long as you live." The man thought, "Well, that sounds too good to be true. How can an apple do that?" But he was desperate to find happiness and was tired of being sad, so he decided to take a chance. He picked out the driest and most shriveled up apple he could find and bought it. Then he bit into the apple. It tasted awful. It was dry, sandy, and not at all sweet like an apple should be. The man was very disappointed. He threw the apple core on the ground and shouted at the vendor, "Hey, you lied to me. This apple doesn't taste good at all, and it certainly isn't sweet. Don't you dare try to fool me again." The vendor just stood there and watched the man leave without saying a word. A few days went by, and the man kept thinking about that apple. The man went back to the vendor and thanked him for the apple. The end. Now you know, never judge someone by their appearance.